Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. Today we're going to do a little farm archaeology. My family's lived on this land for over 200 years, and when people live in a place for so long, they intentionally or unintentionally leave things behind. It may be a wrench or a bolt that they drop on their way to fix something, or it could be an old machine that they park in the weeds where it lies forgotten until it rots into the ground, only to be discovered by some unsuspecting future generation who happens to dig in the right spot. Hillary and I can't dig a hole on the farm without finding bits and pieces that my ancestors have left behind. Some things are familiar, and some things, well, we don't know what they were used for. So join me today as we look at some of the farm relics we've discovered. Welcome back, and thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Me and my family appreciate it as we try to grow our YouTube channel. You can help us grow not only by watching and sharing our videos, but also by clicking that subscribe button down on the corner of the screen. It would mean a lot to me if you could do that, and I'll pause to give you the chance. This is our catch-all shed. It seems to catch everything that we once needed and don't need anymore. For a long time when I dug holes around the farm, either to set fence posts or when I was working on the house, I would find things and I would just toss them in the trash or into the scrap pile. And after a while I thought, I should start saving this stuff. So that's what we have here. Some of it. Some of it's in other places. I'll show you those later. This bucket is full of reaper parts. And I'll lay them out so you can see them. Here they all are. Now the reaper was mostly made of wood, but the connections were made of metal. So we have things like this, where this was a T in wood, and there was a metal connector that reinforced the connection. These look like something from a shipwreck, recovered out of the ocean. They're so rusty. I guess it's a landlocked shipwreck. Now I found all these pieces when I was removing some stumps in the yard and I dug up a large patch of ground. And as I was finding them, I realized that this is where a reaper sat when I was a kid. It was unused in the weeds. It was a relic even by then. And since my childhood, it had rotted into the ground and left these metal pieces behind. This is not all of the metal pieces of the reaper. There was a large drive mechanism that was made entirely out of metal, and that probably went to the scrapyard when they decommissioned the thing and parked it in the weeds. So sometimes the finds have a theme like this, but quite often they don't. I mean, I may dig up an old hammerhead, a pipe wrench that had been cobbled on once already. Horseshoes are popular. Bits of pottery are really popular, the kind with the blue glaze. Here's an old forged chain. Hooks, pulleys, spark plugs, bottles. We often dig up bottles, and surprisingly, sometimes they're whole. So here's a bunch. Actually, these are the Coke versus Pepsi collection. It looks like the same battle that's played out across the ages in the US is played out on our farm. Pepsi, Coke. These are pretty new bottles, but we do find older bottles. The bottles we find seem to get scattered everywhere. These are some that I found in the house on various shelves all over the place. The oldest ones are the ones with a smooth top because they took a cork. And then the newer ones have threads for a cap. Interestingly, we find a lot of patent medicine bottles. This one says N.A. Collins, pharmacist, East Main Street, Groton, which is the neighboring town. When we first moved here, there was a carriage house which was barely standing at the end of the driveway. And one of the first things we did is to tear it down. It had a concrete slab underneath it, which we saved, and we parked a house trailer on it while we renovated the house. After we were done renovating the house, we had an excavator come and pull up the slab so that we could plant it into lawn. As the excavator tore up the slab, we found there was a layer of fieldstone underneath it that had been laid to stabilize the slab. And in the voids in the fieldstone were all these bottles, not only patent medicine bottles, but some of these other types too. I don't know if this was patent medicine, it says Raleigh's on it. But there were bottles and pieces of pottery and parts of buckets and just junk that they had put there before they poured the slab. And it makes me think that maybe one of my ancestors liked patent medicine a whole lot. And my theory is that in the early 20th century, when the slab was poured, temperance was a big thing. Now, somebody could get drunk on patent medicine because it was mostly alcohol without the guilt associated with actually drinking alcohol. It's medicine after all, right? Here's something that baffled me for a long time. You see this hole in the stone? Perfectly round. Obviously the stone's been here a while, it's a big flat stone. I would find these all over. And I would often find them along a line, which gives you a hint at what they're for. So for years I didn't know what they were. I thought maybe they're natural, but they're not. What they are is fence post anchors. In the old days, they didn't have hammer drills and things like that to drill through rocks, and concrete wasn't something that was readily available, especially in high strength forms. The way they drilled these holes in the rocks is they had a star point bit, and obviously it wasn't carbide or any real hard metal, and they would turn that bit on the surface of the rock, get the hole started, and tap on it with a hammer every so often, and it would pulverize the rock. And so slowly they would tap, turn, and drill a hole in the rock and anchor fence lines this way. So this hole happens to be where a line went down that way of fence, because this area was an orchard. And I know that from old aerial photographs of the farm. So there was a fence around the orchard, and every post had this labor-intensive job of drilling a hole in the rock. Amazing. One of the nice things about living here is my family's past is all around us. When we dig a hole, we don't find junk. We find relics of my family's past. These continuing reminders of my family's tradition on this place give me comfort. They tell me I'm in the place I'm supposed to be. When I find something, I wonder, who dropped it? What were they doing? What was their life like? What would they think of what we're doing in this place now? I think they would approve of the way we farm because it follows many traditional values. I've barely touched the tip of the iceberg with the farm relics that I showed you today. There's so much more, and it's all over the farm. We'll do more videos on this subject in the future. For now, as always, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time. So this is where Uncle Norman's axe went. The cops never found it.